Lessons learned from bodybuilding. Now, if you're wondering why the heck people put themselves through that, we are going to talk today about the lessons that we learned from multiple years of bodybuilding. So, Ricky, I'm going to start with you because there's no one else here to ask, but what got you into bodybuilding?
That's a good looking question. Again, I think it's two parts. That's what got you into the gym and then what got you into bodybuilding. So
I do believe it was one part, but you can break it down to two if you like. I'm
going to divide it into two because they're both slightly different for me. So my ex-girlfriend.
What? You shouldn't have had any girlfriends before.
I know, right? There's someone for you. So my ex-girlfriend got me into the gym, and this was something I was...
Did she drag you into it, or...?
Well, this is something I was always against, and not against as in, like, just, I don't want to go. It was something along the lines of, why would I spend money on a subscription to something or a membership to something when I could do push-ups or sit-ups at home? So I was in that mentality at that point in time.
Yeah, but no one ever actually does that.
Exactly. I never did it. So I was like, oh, you come to the gym, you know, you've got weights, it's got classes, it's got cardio, it's got everything you need to keep fit, active, and all the things you'll keep talking about doing. I was like, oh, yeah, but I can run outside and I can do push-ups, I can do all the stuff at home. Never did any of that stuff at home. So I think that little push at that point to get me into the gym, to have that accountability when you're actually committed by being there and actually financially committed as well, you've got more drive and more enthusiasm to actually go ahead and do it and actually give it your all.
When you're actually paying for something.
Well,
when you've got skin in the game.
That's the word I was looking for. When you've actually got skin in the game, you're more obliged to actually fully commit, as opposed to when it's free or you think you've got nothing in there. So that got me in there. And then when I was in there, it was train, YouTube videos, you know, no one's got money for a personal trainer these days, as much as I would probably recommend getting one because they can show you the ins and the outs straight away. No plug-ins recommended, but as much as I can say, no one will show you how to do it. So I was going off YouTube, I was watching people, I was like, okay, this is what you need to do to get going. I ended up getting involved or hanging out and training with some people that were a lot bigger than me because I thought that's what you need to do. Just find someone
Train with the big boys.
Or find someone that inspires you, or find someone that you want to be like, or someone that inspires you to do better and train harder. So
Called modelling. Yeah, when you find someone that you aspire to be and it motivates you and you can copy what they did.
100%. So I found someone bigger, someone that could push heavier, so I trained with them, and the goal was to get bigger and stronger than them and then move on next. And as you go on, you can keep progressing. At some point, I don't know when it happened, but someone said, oh, you look awfully good. I was like, oh, there you go, Bose, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for noticing. What does it do?
It was a dude.
Yeah, of course.
It's at a gym, of course it's a dude.
Only dudes compliment on other dudes at the gym.
100%. Yeah, and that obviously escalated to someone saying, have you ever thought about competing? And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, I'm bodybuilding. I was like, oh, at this point, I was more of a beach body sort of physique style size. I was more of a lean beach body, vibe I was going for. And I said,
I feel like if you are in a beach and you have a body, you technically have a beach body, but you mean like that type of aesthetic.
It wasn't like the mass monster that you see or you visualize when you're bodybuilding. Yeah. And I was like, that's my exact thought that was going through my head. I was like, oh, I'm nowhere near that, And then they said, oh, but there's multiple categories you can enter. So I had a bit of a look, had a bit of a Google, and Lugal, Hot Tub Time Machine reference, good old movie plugins. And yeah, I thought, it's something I can do. And then I thought, you know what, it's going to take real commitment, real drive, and real aspiration to try actually achieve this goal, because it's not for the faint-hearted, and I've seen lots of people do it, step on stage and be nowhere near ready to be. So I didn't want to be or fall into that category. So for me, it was a turn from training to a goal, something I could drive towards. And yeah, I enjoyed every second of it. And the stuff I learned along the way was absolutely amazing. It's stuff that I've actually transferred over into my day-to-day life to actually help me proceed or progress in my day-to-day life and my career I've got now. But before we dive into that, what about you? What got you into the lifting of the weights and the old bodybuilding journey?
My ex-boyfriend. So I can say that because you're not my boyfriend anymore, you're my husband. But I just wanted to give you a subtle take because you mentioned your ex-girlfriend. But you got me into it, actually, because I went along to one of your bodybuilding shows and I watched it. I had been going to the gym a little bit, like going to classes, doing cardio and doing girly things.
Wait, what's the girly thing?
Girly things are going to classes and doing cardio because you're too scared to enter the weights section because you have no fucking idea what you're doing, and it's like a lion's den, and you don't want to walk into the lion's den because you'll just get weird looks. It's just like testosterone central.
It can be a bit intimidating if you know.
If you don't know what you're doing.
Even not just for females, it can actually get quite intimidating.
Guys as well. Yeah. If you don't know what you're doing, you've just started out at the gym. It's like you're going in there and people have been lifting for bloody 10 years, and you're like, I don't look like that. I don't train like that yet. So you don't want to step foot in it. So I didn't. And then I went along to one of your bodybuilding competitions, and I thought you were great. I thought the dude stuff was cool, but I loved the women because they were just badass boss bitches, and they were shouting their stuff out there in their bikinis, looking so confident and gorgeous and proud of themselves. And it wasn't like me gawking at them thinking, oh, judging their bodies. It was me looking at them and being like, they're so inspiring that they have dedicated so much time, so much energy to feeling really confident up there, like doing whatever it took to look amazing in their bikinis, like with all their muscles and their tans and their gorgeous hair and makeup. And I'm an introvert, so I was like, oh, I would love to do that, but that's a bit scary. But by the end of that competition, I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to enter the next competition with you. And I want to be up there, rocking that bikini, owning it, and I want to win. So that's what I decided in that moment. And then we got to train together. And from there, the rest is history. Like, we got to share that hobby together. And I'm so thankful that you got me into it because I feel like it really helped to unlock my confidence and my self-belief as well.
Yes.
So that's how I got into it. You've given us a little bit of background, but that aside, what did you actually get from it? Because it's a lot of dedication of time, money as well, into nutrition, etc. You've got to invest in a coach, costumes, tanning, so much goes into it, and it really does take over your life. So I would love to know, what's one of the biggest lessons you took from that experience?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, you talk about time, dedication, money, cost, like everything that it takes to commit to anything in life. That sort of taught me, you know, to commit to one thing, you need to look at what it's going to take to commit to that one thing. So for us, or for me personally, bodybuilding, it was commit with the diet, right? So I had to commit to a particular diet that would get me to the goal I wanted to get to. I also had to commit to being accurate, so there was accuracy involved. So it wasn't just, you know, you've got to eat this amount of chicken. It was, you've got to eat 250 grams of chicken. It's not there or thereabouts, it's 250 grams.
And can I just kick in and say, when you were teaching me that and I was throwing chicken in and you're like, no, you've got to weigh it to the gram. But at that stage, I didn't really understand how much, you know, 100 grams versus 150 grams, like every gram counts when you're counting things like that in your macros. And it took me a while to actually acknowledge, oh, okay, so over time, that makes a difference.
And I think that's the main lesson I took. Like, no matter how small or minute each stage or section of what you're trying to achieve feels, it plays a massive part. So although to some people, you know, weighing chicken could be, you know, oh, I'm eating chicken, that's healthy. But for me, it was 250 grams to the gram. And that made a do or die session for me, because that do or die bit led me to believe, or resulted in the amount of body fat I lost. The amount of body fat I lost resulted in how much cardio I had to do. How much cardio I had to do resulted in how much time I had to spend at the gym. Time I spent at the gym meant how much time I could take away from my day-to-day. So it all had an ongoing effect. So for me,
ongoing effects for making these little minute decisions that most people would be like, fuck it.
So for me, getting that calorie count accurate means I got to spend more time in my personal life as opposed to having to make up for it in cardio, make up for it in the gym, do something else to account for skipping on such a minute little thing. So probably the easiest way to think of it is it made me appreciate the snowball effect. Because although something might seem so small, skipping at it or skipping on that or forgetting that step or
eating too much chocolate
just makes a snowball. And although you think it's small now, as it goes further and further down the hill, it collects more snow and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So there's a time throughout the training, whereas I think everyone does it when they're training for a bodybuilding prep. I think it's sort of 6 months in where they just say, or 6 weeks in, and they say, oh, F it, I give up, I'm going to eat a jar of Nutella, I'm not going to weigh this chicken, I'm going to have double the... When you're just at that point where it's you make a break point, right? And I noticed that the amount I put on, water weight, fat weight, everything I put on, that to me, I was like, okay, it does come down to discipline, it does come down to control, and it does come down to commitment. So
consistency, I think, is the biggest thing.
I'm committed to the consistency that it requires for me to achieve my goal.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest mental things to do, because you can go work your ass off in the gym, but if you eat like shit, then what's the point, really? Well, your gym is trying to counteract the amount of calories you're consuming, which you're consuming way more than your body needs, so therefore it's going to store it as fat. So it's like that consistency over time. And the thing is, it takes so long, right? You can't just eat in a deficit for a day and go to the gym and the next day you're leaner. It just doesn't. Maybe you'll lose a little bit of water weight, but other than that, it takes so much time.
And something else that taught me, which is quite weird, and I thought I'd never think this way, is when you're deprived for something for so long, regardless if it's food, an activity, or something you enjoy, the short-term gain is only ever a short-term fix. It's like that adrenaline rush, and it's weird to reference that with food, but for me it was like, so Nutella was always my go-to thing.
The Nutella monster. Sneaking into the cabinet, steal all the Nutella.
100%, but like you'd eat 1 tablespoon, whatever is Nutella, and you'd jam a couple more, and then you're like, oh yeah, that felt so good. But 10 minutes later, you drink a glass of water, the flavor's gone. You're like, did I really need that? I could have just drank a glass of water and been satisfied and maintained the consistency I want.
Mm.
I've taken that mentality from life through into my day-to-day stuff. So with whatever I'm doing, whether it's a project work, leadership style, running, or working with my team, I've taken that mentality as like, no short-term fix is ever a long-term gain. You need to think and make sure it's going to be a proper fix.
Mm-hmm.
Well thought out, well driven, well executed, and by all means make sure I'm committed to the result. If I'm committed to the result, then it's going to succeed. And I think that's the biggest thing, is make sure you're committed to whatever result you're trying to get to. Once you're committed to that result and you've got nothing else in sight apart from that result, and you're committed 100% to it, you'll succeed, from my perspective.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, not that you asked, but one
I was about to, but you cut me off. I was going to take a breath and say, now what did you learn?
One lesson that I learned, but one of the whole reasons that I started bodybuilding was because I had been a little bit overweight my whole life. My body didn't want to be lean. It doesn't like being lean. It likes having a bit of cushion. And that's just how I am. But I was wondering if having abs and the body of my dreams would actually make me happy.
Did it?
Quite the opposite, actually, because my body didn't want to be that lean. And for the most part, I was exhausted because you're still working full time, plus going to the gym twice a day and eating not many calories. So it's like, that makes you very hangry. And for me personally, well, for women in general, we're hormonal beings, not a very nice person to be around. Plus, when you're at that state where you're entering international bodybuilder comps, and it's pretty important for you to stay on track. You don't go to social events because you can't eat, you can't drink. So you stay home, you stay in the gym, and it's a bit of an existence for me. So it really taught me that having my dream body didn't make me happy, and happiness is very much an internal game. And to be honest, mindset. I didn't have a very good one at that point. And it made me realize how important, or now that I'm on the other side, how important mindset is when it comes to achieving any goal, but particularly bodybuilding. It's such a mind game, just as much as it is like going to the gym and having that discipline, like of actually doing the things. So it's like the mindset part, mind game is half the battle, really.
Is there anything relating to the bodybuilding experience for yourself that you've taken into your day-to-day or your career?
It showed me that I can do anything I set my mind to, and that was pretty cool, because it's like, oh, I had a goal of entering that competition after I saw you and those pretty girls on stage, and I was like, I want to win that next year, I want to enter that, and I did. I won everything I entered, and then we got to go to Vegas and compete and represent New Zealand, and that was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, holy shit, I can do this. Like, you can do things when you have a goal, you've got your eye on the prize, you work backwards, find out what you need to do to make it happen, and then you're always going to fall off track now and then, because I fucking love food and wine, but when you have your eye on the prize, you make it happen, and that was really cool. Like, it showed me that we are actually capable of anything we set our mind to. Often we just need to decide what that is. Often we don't know what we want or what we want to achieve, so it just keeps us kind of in limbo. But when you actually decide what that looks like for you, then you can do anything you want to. And that was a pretty cool lesson. That was the main lesson, really. So now anything compared to that, I'm like, I dieted 9 months straight. I can do this,
Something I learned that is, I don't know how you want to translate this into your day-to-day or your day-to-day career, but I sort of work on this quite intently, is your mind will always give out before your body does. And I learned that through training a bodybuilder. So, for example, one more rep, you hear all the big guys saying it on TV, one more, and it's because your body's done, but your brain's the thing telling your muscles no more. If you can get your brain past the point of where your body's about to give up, and that's your first point of exhaustion, is your body. If you can get your mind past that and take that into your day-to-day, there's no stopping you.
Day-to-day. I like that.
And get that into your day-to-day, there's no holding you back. So whatever you're trying to do within your career, your mind is so powerful, it can outlast your body. So if you can push through exhaustion, fatigue and tiredness in the gym, imagine where you can push forward and push through when you're thinking about it in the day-to-day at work. So that's probably the most, and probably the key thing that I learned from bodybuilding, is your mind is the last line of defense, and if you can push through what you think your first line of defense is, there's no stopping you.
Well, that makes sense, because our brains, our minds, self-preservation is key. They want to keep us safe. So if it thinks you're getting put in danger, or you could be hurting yourself or overexerting yourself, it's like, stop. Let's stay in our safe zone, please. Let's stay in this vicinity that I'm comfortable with and that it's safe. And that's literally why it does that, why it tells us to slow down or to stop and that sort of thing. So it's like, you're so right. If you're not in immediate danger and you're not going to cause harm to yourself, then it's like about challenging yourself to push yourself past that mental block, because that's when we get the excuses come in, self-doubt, why are you doing this, you're not good enough, or it's not worth it, like, what are you wasting your time for? You could go eat a donut right now, but you're in the gym, or you're eating lettuce. The brain's going to dish up all these things
to try to stop you doing what it
basically wants. Because it wants safety, it wants you to be in your safe zone, your comfort zone. So being able to get past all those excuses that your brain dishes up and all the negative things it says, that's part of the battle of bodybuilding, but also anything that we do in daily life. If you have a goal or you're pushing yourself in your career, you're always going to get those inner thoughts, those excuses that come up.
The voices in your head.
Yes, we all have them. And they say mean things sometimes, but it's about putting them in their place and telling them to fuck off. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So what's something else that you have learned from bodybuilding?
I think besides from, the whole consistency is key, and I spoke about that, and then I spoke about your mind is the greatest attribute because it will outdo anything, and it's your last line of defense. It's just pushing yourself to get to that last line of defense. I think the other thing is commitment. So it's actually deciding you want to do something and fully committing to it. So lots of people, I'm guilty of it, will decide or toss up between multiple things, whether I want to do A or I want to do B. Oh, A leads me down this. Oh, B could lead me to this. Oh, if I did A, I could do this. If I did B, this would be the... It's pick one, commit to it.
You mean overthinking?
Commitment is the word I like to use.
Yeah, but what happens before the commitment is overthinking.
It is.
Yeah.
So, once you finish your overthinking is actually committing to one thing. For me, it was the bodybuilding at that point in time. Committing to it and actually putting all my energy and efforts into that and achieving that. Once you're fully committed to something and you've gotten past your blockers, like your body, and you're on your last line of defense and you can get through it, there's no stopping you because there's nothing holding you back and there's nothing standing in your way. Once you've got a goal and you've got the determination and the effort to actually achieve it, you can do wonders. And that's what I've found the best outlook in my life is just fully understanding what I want, although it might take me a while to get there. Once I understand what I want and fully commit, there's no stopping me.
Yeah, it's like having your eye on the prize. Well, first of all, know what you want, knowing your why. That's really important to keep you on track when you're like, why am I doing this again? But having your eye on the prize and being able to get tunnel vision on that one goal, because I think a lot of the time we don't really know what we want, or we've got kind of an idea, and what we end up doing is spreading ourselves a bit thin. So we like choose multiple things that we're chasing after, but when we're diluting those efforts, we actually don't really get very far, or it takes a bloody long time to achieve anything. Whereas with bodybuilding, what I found was we had this competition, the deadline was here, so it's like, cool, I have to meet that deadline, so I'm working tunnel vision on this one goal, and everything else just fell by the wayside because that was the goal. And that does not come without sacrifice and consequences, like socializing, enjoying events, like parts of our lives we kind of fell by the wayside because we had tunnel vision on these goals. But that's when you get the best, fastest progress, when you're actually focused on this one thing and everything else is kind of taking a back seat. So it's like a catch-22. You get to your goal faster, but at what cost? You got to think about, what is this costing you? And if you want to go out there and do a bodybuilding comp, great. But just realize that it's not to come without sacrifice and consequences.
There's always those sacrifices that you're going to have to put in place to achieve what you want to achieve, but it comes down to long-term gain, short-term loss. So it's understanding what's important to you at your current point in life, what you need to do to achieve what's important to you, and what you may or may not lose along the way. And then you just weigh up the values of it.
Long-term gain, short-term loss. You said that resonates. And something I wanted to tap onto with that is everything is temporary. So when we did bodybuilding, we would work out, eat well for, the longest time for a period that I was in a calorie deficit or dieting was 9 months, and I went batshit. But that was because we're competing overseas and it was a big deal. As soon as that competition was finished, we binge ate because, it was over and the goal's been achieved. And then we gained weight so fast that going back to square one again does not take long at all. So it's like everything is temporary. And if you feel like achieving this specific goal is going to solve all your problems and change your life, temporarily that might be the case, but unless you're consistent with it and keep going with it, it won't be. So that's one thing it taught me as well, is, oh my God, I can have abs for a day, and then the next day I'm going to eat lots of chocolate, ice cream, and a Big Mac, and it's all going to turn to shit because I'm going to gain a ton of water weight because my body's not used to eating that. And it doesn't take long to go back to square one at all. So it's like everything is temporary, and that's what it taught me as well.
Yeah, that's where it comes back to that consistency, right? Long-term gain, short-term loss. It can also be short-term gain, long-term loss. Yes. It can be a short-term gain from getting that six-pack, shredded body for the beach, you know, you've dieted, you've done your show, you walk on, you go get fish and chips and ice cream with your mates, you finish eating, you stand up and you look down, you can't see your toes because your belly's sticking out.
Yeah. That would be fine if you got the fish and chips and the ice cream and the rest of the day you ate well, rest of the week.
But you don't though, because...
you don't, it's a slippery slope.
It does, because you get into that mindset of, oh my God, I haven't had that. And I think that's another thing it taught me, is that short-term gain, long-term loss is a big thing, and that relates to food. So although I might be able to have a cheat meal, is what, you know, it's called, a refed meal, whatever it's called these days, do it responsibly, because end of the day, food is fuel. Although it still needs to taste nice, if you're referring to bodybuilding and having a body goal, food is fuel. It doesn't matter what it looks like. The moment you drink a sip of water, the flavor's gone. It could be a bunch of carrots and a spring onion.
What's that moment on the lips? Like, it's so true.
It is very true.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that was the main thing it taught me, was just long-term gain, short-term loss, and short-term gain, long-term loss.
Yeah.
Both of those are very true and very realistic when you start getting into the aspect of how hard you're training and how much commitment you have to the cause. So
definitely. And I think another thing it really did teach me, well, a negative side effect of it is that when you are dieting so hard and you're deprived, you want to eat everything. It's like animalistic brain kicks in because you're starving, basically. It wants excess calories. It doesn't want you to be in low body fat. So it's like, feed me. So honestly, you're just craving food all the time that's unhealthy. And I do believe that a lot of bodybuilders are people who have eating disorders, because how can you not have an eating disorder when you're tracking your calories all day, every day, how much you're working out in the gym? That's a glorified eating disorder, you know, bodybuilding really is. So that's something it taught me. It's not without its risks to your health, and to tread carefully when you do something like that, because it isn't good for you.
I agree. There's pros and cons to everything you do in life. I think as much as I talked about it, as much as we talked about the benefits of the positive side of what it taught us, and also taught us the negative side of things as well, of overcommitting to one particular goal. And I think I've raised it in something else I spoke about, but tunnel vision. When you're too tunnel visioned on one thing, I don't know if that's a word, when you're too focused on one thing, there you go. Sense. When you're too focused on one thing and you block out everything else along the way, you lose focus, and when you lose focus, you run the risk of losing other things that may be important to you. So it's making sure that although you've got a goal in mind or in sight, you're open to the possibilities of what you may lose along the way and what you need to commit to achieve that. You've got a good balance in your life and still able to achieve that goal. So, and
factoring in setbacks and when you're going to go off track or life is going to throw something at you, it's like, so this isn't just bodybuilding, this is any goal you have. Not underestimating how much time it can take you, because with bodybuilding, like, you lose weight a lot easier than me, and so you can diet 12 weeks before you step on stage. For me, I need 5 months, you know? So it's like, don't, like, give yourself more time so you're not stressed. And the same applies to achieving any goal.
I agree. Time is definitely a factor. So, I mean, that comes down to that tunnel vision or that focus, right? When you got what's in sight in mind, just be like, okay, how much time do I need to achieve this in a comfortable time frame? Because when you rush anything in life, things go wrong. And what this taught me is if you try to crash diet, which is where you stress your body out and cut your calories really quickly, your body reacts to that, because your body's like, why are you stressing me out? You're stressed, I'm now going to retain all this water and all this fat because I'm stressed out. You're making me panic. So it gets a negative effect. Same thing going into life. If you're trying to apply for a job and you rush your CV and rush your cover letter, is that going to look any good?
Totally.
No.
Might be mistakes in there.
There will be, and that will have a negative ongoing effect. So plan what your goal is and execute it correctly. Things are going to go wrong, without a doubt, but it's just how you pull things back, how you reorganize, reanalyze, and then attack or achieve or progress towards the overall focus.
Love it. So what we're saying is start bodybuilding. Become a professional, international bodybuilder. Represent New Zealand because it's really good for the mind.
And walk
and
into
the
that
body.
weight section and slap anyone on the face that lifts anything heavier than you.
What's that going to achieve? An ego boost?
Yeah, isn't that what bodybuilding is?
Oh, essentially. Well, I mean, yeah, it's nice to be told that, right? But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to us talk about what we learned from our bodybuilding days. If you have any questions, please get in touch with us. This is Terrible Life Advice, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much. We're signing off.